Warning, Dazz Radio is not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. 1K frequency is not intended to replace professional advice, and our views may not necessarily reflect those views of our featured guests.
Great to have you here with us. Welcome to 1K Frequency with your hosts, Dazzo, Skittlekicks, and Atlas. What's going on, everybody? This is 1K Frequency with your hosts, Dazzo, Atlas, and Skittlekicks. So what happens when an aircraft is veering off course for about 28 minutes because both pilot and co-pilot fall asleep? What are your thoughts on that one, guys? Seriously, that is just so messed up to me.
That is messed up.
Yeah.
Very.
And they had just reached cruising altitude. And what I'm finding interesting as I read this article, after it reached the cruising altitude, the 32-year-old pilot asked his 28-year-old co-pilot if he had permission to sleep for a little while. I don't know how other airlines, especially since this was an Indonesian flight that was heading to Jakarta, what exactly the standards are for a pilot or a co-pilot to just take a nap while they're in flight. To me, that would be a big red flag of no, but I'd like to get your opinion.
I think that would be in your training. They would have said something in your training when you got your fucking license.
But, we don't... The thing I have a hard time understanding is, I only know FAA training, what I do know of it. So I don't know what what other countries do for their, flight training or whatever. I would assume there's some kind of standard, that they have to follow.
I think there is a standard. But I think most of the pilot's training program is technically the same to a certain degree.
Right.
And if you were given the green light to fly, say within the next few days, and something last minute came up, like having twins and not being able to sleep properly, I would at least immediately call whoever the parties were and be like, hey, I can't fly. I'm going to put my job at risk. I'm going to put the entire plane at risk.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the entire
aviation,
passengers at risk.
the airline, the the airplane, all that stuff. Yeah, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go. Hey, I need a day off. Let me go take care of myself, But I mean, that's the thing is that we're basing that on, Western culture. We don't really know. But
I think that should be anywhere, regardless. Regardless of what job you have, regardless of what position you have, wherever you are. Hey, I'm not feeling well. I can't fucking fly. I'm going to put my job at risk and everybody else at risk. Do your job, supervisor, or whoever it is. Just saying.
Now, the common denominator in both of these, the co-pilot and pilot, they both had kids. The pilot had 1-month-old twins, and the co-pilot had children, unknown age. Yet, most likely they were either were babies or they might have been very young toddlers, right? So 3-4 years old. So, what does that mean in terms of stability? And Atlas, you said that there's a kind of a follow up to what happened that you've discovered.
Well, I'm looking up a lot of information to help about explaining what the pilot's normal procedure is. And what I've found here is there's two different types of rest for pilots to have. in a normal cruise like this, there's supposed to either be a power nap, which ideally is 10 to 20 minutes per pilot each to like quickly rest, or there's a controlled rest for like 30 to 60 minutes. And supposedly on a flight like this, they were only supposed to do a power nap, which after 28 minutes, one of them should have at least been awake.
Yeah.
And
right.
to be both asleep after 28 minutes, there's something wrong for both of them pilots, honestly, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean none of us in this conversation have kids. So, but I can imagine that it's extremely tiring, especially if you have very young kids. Like a 1-month-old is going to need all the attention in the world, and at all hours of the night. I mean, you have no clock. You are awake when baby cries or whatever. And if you let's say you go to bed at 9:00 at night and you have a 2:00 awakening because your kid wants to be changed or needs something to like something to eat, you got to do it. And then let's say that takes 30 to 40 minutes to do, and you're already kind of sleepwalking, and then okay, now I got to report to work. I don't know if a power nap would be sufficient.
No.
I
mean, hell, it takes me almost 15 minutes to fall asleep.
But I mean, here's the thing. At the beginning of the trip, everyone knows there's two pilots. There's the co-pilot and the main pilot.
Correct.
The co-pilot, who's a 28-year-old male, had roughly 1,600 hours of flying time, while the main pilot is a 32-year-old with 6,300 hours of flying time under his belt.
Yes.
According to the statement here, the second command pilot, who's the co-pilot, requested to have a rest for first half of the trip for half an hour because he had issues with his leg, I believe, in this story, is what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the main pilot said, go ahead. And then on the way back, because this was a round trip, the co-pilot wanted to ask the commander if he needed to take a nap, which the commander declined. And then 20 minutes later, at 36,000 feet in the air, they both fell asleep.
36,000 feet in the air, that's cruising altitude. According to this, though, it was the captain or the pilot asked the 20-year-old co-pilot if he had permission to sleep. So they got it reversed in this article that you read. But still, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does not matter. The point is that this was not procedural. Now, what I find very interesting right now is that the safety committee did not mention if these pilots would face any disciplinary action. So think about that for a second, guys. Young pilots falling asleep at the yoke, and at 36,000 feet, which is cruising altitude. My brain says that is not okay. My brain also says they should be grounded for a while, like not allowed to fly, and possibly be retrained to prevent, because yes, this could have ended catastrophically.
Oh, well, yeah, it could have. They could have not survived.
No,
they could have crashed into the ocean with where their flight pattern is.
Yeah, and the fact that they were off course and then they had to course correct.
Yeah.
I guarantee there's, navigators watching the skies, right? I mean, everybody who works a control tower or does something is basically a navigator.
Yes. And
you spend a lifetime learning that craft.
Mm-hmm.
You know what is at risk if you screw up on the ground. Never mind if you're in the air. And I think, like with truckers, for example, truckers back in the old days, and I'm talking 40, 50 years ago, they could drive through the night They could drive more than 24 hours because nobody thought, geez, do these drivers get fatigued? We need our products. We need our chairs. We need our stuff. This, by the way, this is pre-Amazon. And then laws had to be implemented across all 50 states saying that truckers have to sleep 8 hours once they drive 12 hours. So 12 hours on, 8 hours off, essentially. I believe that's how it works. Now, flight is different because you can cruise pretty much from Texas to where I live in Minnesota in about 2.5 hours. And I don't know what the flight is from New York to California or vice versa. Like, I don't know how long that would take. I would say about 3.5, 4 hours, maybe, depending on wind. But if you're crossing ocean, maybe you're going from California to Japan, you would think somewhere you would want to get some rest or switch somebody out. I don't understand how this type of thing can happen. But then again,
because they've even stated here the main pilot, who was the
captain,
the 32-year-old captain, had 35 hours of sleep prior into him, and the co-pilot had 53 hours of rest into him.
Okay, so that's
before this incident happened.
Okay, now there's a problem right there. There are studies that have said, and I don't have them in front of me right now, but there are studies that say that if you sleep too much, you can be overly fatigued. Because if you sleep, I think there's a certain cutoff where it's a diminishing return.
Yeah.
Now, is that constant sleep that this pilot and co-pilot had, or was this just over the course of a couple of days?
I believe, according to this, the main pilot, it was a constant, but for the co-pilot, he had to keep waking up because he is the new father with the month-old twins. So he constantly had to wake up to take care of them, and his sleep quality had degraded.
Yeah, that's
according to the reporter.
Yes, and that's the same thing I read as well. So my question is, when it's a new parent, when do you have to say, okay, I've got to find something else until I'm able to get enough sleep so that I can function properly? I love my kids, but I can't put other people at risk. I don't feel comfortable. And maybe that's the problem, is that they don't admit that. They don't say, yeah, I'm not capable of flying right now. I need to rest.
You would think.
But then again, what world are we living in? This is, upside down world.
I also don't think in Indonesia that they have what was it? Maternity leave for the guys.
No,
I don't think that is a thing.
And it's hardly a thing in this country, in our country. For men, that is. There's even though it should be, I don't think there is a maternity leave for the dads.
Let me.
But I would verify that
real quick.
The interesting thing was, the Post had reported, and this is a European Cockpit Association survey, and from 2023, this is the month of July, 75 of those who were questioned admitted they had fallen asleep at least once while flying a plane. The total number of pilots questioned in the survey was 6,893. That's a pretty good survey. It definitely makes me question whether or not I would ever fly. Because
this is just a whole nother reason not to fly.
This is another reason why I don't trust the airlines, because, like when we talked about recently, how the ideological idiots that are saying my feelings, my genders, and all that other crap take priority over, being excellent in meritocracy and making sure that people are qualified to do the certain job that's required. And now we're getting to the point where pilots are falling asleep and because they, obviously they take care of kids, and I can't say that I blame that. But at some point, there has to be a standard set. I don't think Indonesian, flight administration is probably ever going to do that, just because it's a different culture. So who knows what their processes are? I mean, okay. I don't want to assume it, but it doesn't seem like it's, a high quality thing. Go ahead, Ray.
So from what I was researching, women gets up to 3 months of maternity leave.
Right.
At their full salary.
And that's been
the men recent. Only get 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 days.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I can understand. I can understand why, women would get the longer time. I mean, what their bodies go through giving birth. I mean, good God, I do not envy that at all.
Yep.
It is. I mean, look, I was there for my brother's birth, and it was pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
However, for the men to get just 2 days, seems a little. But
bullshit. Then again, men they don't do anything. They're just there for the wife. That's it.
Well, I mean,
but unfortunately, those are the rules.
Well, and unfortunately, there are just very dumb rules, and I would say that is one of them. Yeah. I think, and I understand the philosophy that men are supposed to be the workers and things like that when it comes to things like this. However, we are human beings. We can only do so much before our bodies start to say, "Oh, hell no."
Yep.
I mean, think about this, Daz. The other day you were talking about, putting up fencing around, a location for a transmitter tower, and how extremely sore and tired you were, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm just burned,"
Yep.
And it's not just physical; it's psychological too. It's like you just need to recharge. Well, even in 2 days, I bet you're still feeling like dog crap. You're like, oh my God, my body just, and you're young, man. You're still young. You're probably the co-pilot's age, or pretty close to that. Oh, I mean, sorry, the pilot's age. So, I'm 48 years old. I can feel when shit breaks on my body.
Oh, dude. I was feeling a little bit crazy, a little bit fatigued still.
Yeah.
Today, even this morning.
So if you were a pilot,
but not as bad as like the other days.
Right, but would you? Let's say you were doing that fence, and let's say we're going to go do some flight training. Would you feel confident going up in an airplane, just to soar into the sky? You're learning how to fly, so therefore you're going to have a trainer next to you. Would you feel confident that you were of sound mind and physicality to, let's say, do an hour-long lesson? Probably not. You'd probably say, "Yeah, I got to pass. I'm a pass."
I will take the L and reschedule my training dates, sir.
Yes, thanks. Yes, exactly my point, and that's what they should start doing with this. But again, it almost feels like this is just some kind of, I hate saying it, but it feels like a sick game with the airlines around the world. It's like nobody gives a shit about safety anymore. We'll let stuff fall off the airplane. We'll let doors fall off. We'll let tires fall off. We'll improperly screw in bolts into the fuselage. We'll allow our pilots and co-pilots to fall asleep because we don't care about a standard anymore. We're just going to let this happen, and this is just going to be a game for them.
But this is also on both of them as pilots themselves. They should be held to a higher standard because you are flying a fucking plane 36,000 fucking feet up in the air carrying
150,
200. 300 fucking people.
Yeah, it was like 159 people, I think, or 150, something like that. But it's not a huge plane, but that's enough to be a tragedy. I mean, even one person, even if the pilots died, that would suck. You know?
Exactly.
And
like I said, it should be on the pilot and the co-pilot. Yeah, they never told their bosses about, hey, we didn't have enough sleep, even though we were green light. Give us a few more days. Perhaps.
Exactly.
Maybe.
I mean, thinking of the timing, we go from planes coming off the line with bolts in the wrong place or not there at all to pilots falling asleep. Imagine what would have happened if the pilots fell asleep and then something happened to the plane, like something fell off while they were asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine how much worse that could have been.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that would have been all over the news, and the way the media works now, to have been something like, it's my racisms. You know, that's what happened. It's the inequalities. You know, it's that level of bullshit mentality that literally would have led the story. Never mind the people that died in the plane crash or got sucked out of the plane because a damn door fell off. Never mind the frickin' shroud around the engine blew apart because some jackass does not know how to put it together. You know,
I mean, the guys that fell asleep.
What's that?
Focus on the guys that fell asleep and didn't pay attention to the plane falling apart.
That's my point.
It happened.
That's my point. My point is that, you know, there's not a care or a damn given anymore, is what I'm getting at. Whether it's somebody falling asleep, I mean, how many? I mean, seriously, let's take this for an example. How many people drive drunk?
Way too many.
Every day.
How many motherfuckers out there pour a thing of beer, get hammered, pour several shots, you know, I'm okay to drive. I'm good.
They're the king of the world.
Yeah. And then somebody gets killed because this asshole decided, hey, I'm going to go fucking drive like an asshole. Falling asleep is no different than being drunk. It's the same effect.
Speaking of drunk assholes, this morning when I was on my way to the transmitter site, I was listening to the news because I had it on. A 19-year-old got drunk, DUI and all. He took the off-ramp off the highway, and guess what? He killed somebody. A 55-year-old man died on the scene. Why? Because he was drunk. He was likely speeding, and he was arrested.
My question is, he's 19. How is he allowed to drink at the age of 19?
Because if that's in Canada, they don't have
18 years old to be allowed to drink.
Yeah, it changed.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
You are held responsible.
Yep. But it'll be interesting.
Imagine having that burden on your shoulders, killing someone.
The problem is, most people, when they're that fucked up, don't even remember a damn thing.
Yep.
They won't remember who they killed.
Yep.
You know,
until after they got sober enough.
And even then, it could be such, you know, they could have been. Then you're like, oh, why am I going to prison? Oh, yeah, I guess I killed somebody. I did not know because I was a dum-dum. I don't get it.
I mean,
and they have said that
about it, folks.
Yeah, they've said falling asleep or being fatigued that severely, where you're falling asleep, is just like being drunk. The same reaction times are limited. Your entire quality of life is degraded. How fucking stupid do you have to be? How fucking stupid do these pilots have to be? I
wish I knew. I mean,
I know.
There's always the lesson I was told. If you're driving, I know driving and falling asleep and flying are not exactly the same. But if you feel fatigued while driving, if you don't have a passenger, pull off somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't keep driving if you feel fatigued.
Yeah, switch drivers if you can. Pull over and absolutely pull over. I was driving home from Texas in 2011 when I first went down there. And I had very little sleep, and I remember I dozed for a brief second. I opened up my eyes. I was in the normal lane, like the slow lane. I had crossed 2 lanes and was heading for K-Rail before I realized what the fuck was going on. I didn't hit anything. It scared the shit out of me, though. And so I speak from experience when that shit can fuck you up. And I have never drank and drove or anything like that, but I know people who have, and it pisses me off because you don't have the right to do that. If you fall asleep at a plane when you're 36,000 feet in the air, fuck you. You know, if you have kids,
that's our excuse. Fuck you.
If you have kids, I understand you're fatigued. Then take the fucking time off work and get the rest. But again, you know, we are a bass-ackwards society, so what does it matter what we say?
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in, everyone.
We hope that you enjoyed the maiden voyage of 1K Frequency with your hosts Dazzo and Atlas, and myself, Skittlecakes. If you have any thoughts or topic ideas or feedback for the show, you can drop us a line at dazradio@hotmail.com. So until next time, don't get canceled.